If you have been watching the Build Your Own Custom Product Page in Wix series, then you may have noticed that the Add to Cart method that is used in that series is slightly out of date. Hi there, welcome back to the Wix Wiz. I'm Eitan, and today we are going to be talking about this change to the Wix APIs, which essentially is this deprecated API of add products, and the switch to this updated API, which is currentCart.addToCurrentCart inside of the Wix eCom APIs. So we're going to be picking up where the series leaves off in terms of adding to cart, and we're going to show how to take the code that we previously wrote and update it to the new API. Even if you haven't been following along with the series, you may find this useful in terms of how to programmatically add items to cart using Wix APIs, but you might find it a little confusing because we are going to be using the code that we wrote previously. So if at any point you're feeling a little lost, you can just go back in the series and figure out what was happening until now. So without further ado, let's hop in. As I mentioned in the intro, today's video is an update on a previous tutorial. So if at any point you don't understand where all this code that's already on the page came from, where all the design came from, this is all part of the custom product page series. And what we're going to be discussing today is really an update that has happened to one of the APIs, which has to do with the larger shift from Wix stores to Wix eCom, at least with some of the eCom related responsibilities. So that's really what we're doing today. So we're just focusing on updating some code that we wrote in one of the previous tutorials. So if you feel lost, you might want to pause, go back, see what we did previously, and see exactly what it is that we're updating. I will try to give a little context. So this is a custom product page that we built on a dynamic page in Wix. It's linked to our Wix stores product collection. But all of these are custom elements that we added, not custom elements, but just regular Wix elements that we added to the page. And everything here is powered by velo code over here. Inside of this velo code, we have a function which is responsible for adding everything to cart once somebody clicks on this add to basket button. Okay, so this is the add to cart button. And if I just go ahead and I look for that button over here inside of the code, then we can see over here that when it's clicked, we run this add to cart function, okay, which is right over here. So this is the function that we're going to be focusing on today. And we're not going to be changing the entire function, but we're really surgically just going to be changing this part of the function right over here. Because here we're doing cart add products. And if we go back to the top right over here, you can see that that cart module is being imported from Wix stores. But if we go over here to our velo documentation, then you can see that the add to cart that belongs to Wix stores, let me just go ahead and find that for you, because this one is actually, I see here inside of the cart widget, this is what we're looking for. So Wix stores front end, cart, and here we have, they might have already removed it here from the documentation. Okay, but basically this is deprecated. Let me see if I see over here. Oh, cart add products. Okay, this one right over here. So this is what we were using before. Cart add products within Wix stores. You could also see that Wix stores has updated from Wix stores to Wix stores front end. That's not really a basic change, breaking change though, but this is deprecated. And as it says here, this continues to work. So if you use the code from the previous tutorials, it still should technically be working, but it just means that Wix won't be updating anymore. It could eventually stop working, and it would just be a generally better idea to migrate to the eCom add to cart function as they explain over here. So here there are migration instructions. I'm not going to read all of it, but essentially what we're going to do is just switch out this API. And this is a great exercise in something that is called maintenance. So if you're using external packages, whether it's in web development in general or within Wix, APIs will change over time. That's just the nature of things. So this is a good exercise in updating one of those APIs and seeing what the relationship between that update is to the rest of the functionality that you've built out surrounding it. To get started, let's take a look at the updated documentation. So this here, I'm inside of the Wix eCom backend, here inside of the Velo documentation. And inside of the Wix eCom backend, we have something called currentCart, and we have an add-to-currentCart module, okay? So right over here, this is what we're gonna be using. Even though it is in Wix eCom backend, and the example that Wix provides here requires us to create a backend file in order to add to cart, I have insider information that this actually works equally on the front end and the back end. So that's kind of a little mismatch here in terms of the documentation, at least last I heard. So we're going to try just implementing it on the front end without the back end because it's an unnecessary complication if we don't need it. And if we run into any problems, then we'll shift over and we'll implement it on the back end. So essentially what we're going to need to do is, first of all, we're going to need to update our import. So here you can see the import is import current cart from Wix eCom backend instead of what we have over here, which is import cart from Wix store. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in that new import. We don't need to get rid of the old import just yet. We'll do that at the very end once we're done with the entire update. Next, I'm going to go back to the add to cart function over here. And again, this is the part that we're going to be switching out. So again, instead of cart.addProducts, we're now going to wait for our other method, which is, again, if we just zoom in here, it's await currentCart.addToCurrentCart. And then here, we're going to need to add in the product, but the way that the products are added in is a little different than how it's done over here. So we're going to need to take a look at the documentation. And what we'll see over here is that the options that this takes in is either line items or custom line items. So we're going to deal with line items because we're dealing with our regular Wix stores catalog. And really what we're going to need to deal with is just these two fields over here, which is catalog reference and quantity. Okay, so let's go ahead and start implementing that. Let's see if we have anything here that we can copy over. So yeah, so here we have an example. And when possible, I like to copy from the examples, even though sometimes there are small mistakes in the examples. But overall, if I had to, take a bird's eye view, 95% of the time using the example will prevent problems versus the other way around. So I'm going to grab in this const options right over here. I'm just going to go ahead and Control C that, and I'm going to put that right over here. And I'm just going to format. So this options that we have over here, this is essentially replacing what we have over here. Okay, so here we organized our products in a specific way. So essentially this is replacing that. So const options equals line items, and here we have the catalog reference and the quantity. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive a level deeper and see what we need to adjust here within the options. So first of all, we have the app ID. This is a standard ID that is provided by Wix. It's the ID of the Wix Stores app. This has to do with the ability to use custom catalogs. I have a tutorial about custom catalogs. So if you want to understand, what can go here in terms of app ID, then you can check that out. For now, since we are using Wix Stores catalog with the regular Wix Stores products, we're just going to use this app ID over here. What I do want to do is I want to separate this out into a global variable, just that I know what this ID is. I don't want to leave this comment in over here. I prefer have this in a readable variable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut that right out. And I'm going to go over here all the way at the top of my code. And I'm going to declare a global variable. I'm going to say const Wix stores app ID, and I'm just going to put the ID right over there. I already have quotation marks, so that's all we need. Okay, and now if I go back over here to my code where it's broken, then here in app ID, I'm going to have Wix stores app ID, and then I can go ahead and get rid of this comment, and I know now which ID this is. Okay, so that's one down. Next, we have the catalog item ID, so that if we're using Wix stores, then it's going to be the product ID. So here in our previous implementation, we already used the product ID for something. So I know that if I just use this product dot underscore ID, then that should suffice over here. So that's what I'm going to do right over here. I'm just going to switch this out for this product dot ID. Okay, this has to do with how we set up the rest of the page. Essentially, this product is the data of the current dynamic page product. So the product that we're viewing on this page, all of its data is encompassed inside of this product, and we're just getting the ID from that. So depending on whatever your setup is, that's what you're going to want to have over here. The next thing is a little more complex. It's the variant. So we're going to skip over that for a second just to deal with quantity, and then we're going to come and circle back to the variance. So here, in terms of quantity, so we also had a setup for that over here. And essentially, it's based on our quantity input. Okay, so on our product page right over here, we have a quantity input field, and we're just getting that value and turning it into a number. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this same thing that we have over here and replace the quantity over here. That way, we're not always adding only one of this item. We're actually adding whatever they put in the quantity field. And that leaves the last thing that we need to tackle, which is just the variants. Variants are a little more complicated within the new eCom catalog, within the new eCom APIs. Versus what we had in the previous. So just to recap what we had before. So in terms of the options, previously we just had essentially an object which has choices, and it has our choices. These choices are whatever we selected in the various, let's say, color, size, etc. drop downs. So the different options for our product, and we just had to pass that in over here. When it comes to the Wix eCom, so it's a little more complex. So there's two ways that it could be passed in, either using variant ID or using options. And Wix has an article over here which explains about it. So let's hop in and take a look. So there's a slightly different way that it's handled if the product is a managed if the inventory of the product is managed versus if it's not managed. So with managed variants, we have the variant ID over here. And with non-managed variants, we have something similar essentially to what we have previously, which is like having the options with the different choices. Okay, so that's for non-managed variants. And let's see if they have a tip here about how to, yeah, so here they have a slight explanation about how to check if the product has managed variants, and then based on that to get the variant ID or the different options. Okay, so here they have it as if it's built on the original product page. So they're using that to get the variant ID, but we're going to have to use something slightly different because we built our custom product page on a completely different page. So again, just to recap what our homework is to set up two different approaches. So one approach is for the managed variants and one is for the non-managed variants. Just to give you an idea of what managed versus not managed is, because that might not be something that's so obvious to everyone. If we head over here to our dashboard and we go into our catalog, where we can see our different products inside the store. And if we go over here, let's say, for example, this product over here, which has two variants, and we go ahead and open it up, and we go down over here to the different variants. So here you see there's a toggle over here, manage pricing and inventory for each product variant. So if this is toggled on, then it is a managed inventory. If it's off, then it's a non-managed inventory. And each of those has different way of handling it inside the code. So let's hop in and see how we can set that up. First, let's deal with getting the variant IDs, because that's going to be the more complex part of this, because the other option is very similar to what we did previously with the old API. So to get the variants for a specific product, we're actually going to need to circle back to the Wix Stores APIs because this is something that is specific to the Wix Stores catalog. It doesn't have to do with the overall e-commerce flow. And here we see an example of how we can get the variant. Okay, so first we're going to need to import this right here on top. So import product from Wix Stores front end. I'm going to head back into the editor and just place this import right over here on top. So we're still using something from Wix Stores. It's not like we're abandoning it completely. And then over here, we're going to need to build a new function, which is going to get our product variants. It's important to note that we're only going to want to get the variant ID if there is one variant, essentially. We're assuming here that the user has made all of the proper selections and has given enough choices to narrow it down to essentially one variant. Because this function can technically return multiple variant IDs that match even an incomplete selection of choices. So what we're going to need to do is something like this. So we're going to have our options choices, which is great because we already have that set up, and we're going to have the product ID. So let's go ahead and build out a new function. And I'm going to build it close to our add to cart function. Okay, right over here. So let me see, either right under it. Yeah, we could build it right under it. So let's build here async function. Okay, and let's call this get selected variant. Okay, just like that. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to have the product ID, and we're also going to have our choices, and we're going to pass those into the API. So we'll say here const variance. I think that's what it responds with. And we're going to have here await, and we're going to have product dot get variance. And then here we're going to pass in two things. So we're going to pass in the product ID, which is this product underscore ID, same thing that we did before. And we're also going to have our options, which needs to look something like this. Okay. And if we take a look at our add to cart function, so we can see here that looks pretty similar to what we have over here. Okay, so I'm just going to grab this actually, and I'm going to put that in an object right over here. Okay, and let's see why that's returning object literal, specify known properties and options does not exist in product variant options. Let me just take a look over here again at the documentation, get variants. Okay, so it doesn't need to be. Okay, so this options is just the higher level, it's just the name that they gave this object with just the choices. So options doesn't need to be included within the options. So we can actually go ahead and just get rid of this and get rid of this right over here. So this all we'll have is choices with the choices. Okay, that's all we need. And that should give us back the variance. Let me just double check what this returns. Sorry for jumping back and forth. So it returns, yeah, it'll return an array in a promise with all of the variants, and what we care about here is the variant ID. So again, as I said, we're going to assume that we're only going to have one variant that's going to come back here when we're running the function. So I'm going to return variance 0, so essentially the first item in the array, of which there should only be one, we hope, and we're going to return the ID. So essentially what this function should do at any given time is get the ID of the current variant. So now we are ready to set up the logic that Wix has explained over here. So let me just go ahead. I'm going to copy these few lines of code, and I'll explain them in a moment. So let's go ahead. Let's see over here. I'm curious what this item options. Oh, so they pass in, interesting. So they pass in both. Oh, they pass in either, okay, they set it up a little differently. Yeah, I might do it a little differently than they. I understand why they did it this way because like these are two different data types. Um, okay, I'm gonna do it exactly like they did. I'm gonna be a real copycat, and I'm just gonna copy this over right over here. Okay, so here we have item options, and here instead of product, we're gonna need to change this out to this product because that's our product data. And here instead of getting the variance with this method that they have over here, we're going to get rid of this and we're going to use our lovely function that we built. So get selected variant, just like that. And what we're going to do here for the options is we're going to use this essentially. So the same thing that we have over here. So options, choices is choices. Let me just make sure that that aligns with the requirements. Let's see. Options. Do they have an example of what the options should look like? Okay, options. Okay, so instead of calling it choices, they called it options. Okay, so it's like these little things that can really just completely throw you off. So what we're going to need to have here is we're going to have essentially, if we head back into the editor, so here we're going to have, over here, we're going to have an object with, well, it's dot options. So should this just be the options, or should it be the an object with options? Driving me crazy. So options. I'm just gonna pass in the options, and I think that that's what's. I think this should just be choices. Okay. If it doesn't work, then we'll make an adjustment. But I think that this makes sense based on the logic, because here it's item options, and then there's options, and then this would be the choices. So that kind of like makes sense. And then over here, so here for the options over here, okay, then here we need to put in the item options. Instead of variant ID, item options. And let me just do a recap. Okay, so basically what we did is we set up logic that if the depending on the managed variant status of the product, we'll either get the variant ID or we'll get the choices. And then we'll assign them to this object over here. So it'll either have a variant ID or options, and the other one will be undefined. And then we just pass that into these options over here. Okay. Yeah, this API is a little more of a headache than the previous one, but it's annoying if you're really doing only a very basic implementation, but all of these complications actually open more doors if you want to do more creative things and think outside of the box. So like let's try and look at the positive side. And now what we need to do is we need to, into this add to current cart, we essentially want to pass in options. Lots of options going around here. We need to think of some more original names for API properties except for options. But otherwise, this should be fine. So what I'll do is I'm just going to go ahead and comment out. So this is what we're not using anymore. I commented it out. And up here, this is what we're not using anymore. I'll comment it out. And now it's throwing an error, so that's good. Let's see. Oh, so cart show mini cart. Okay, so this actually highlights an important thing that also in terms of different front end things that we might want to do, like refreshing the cart, showing the mini cart and stuff like that, we're also going to migrate to the Wix eCom APIs. Now that we finished the core implementation, we're ready to add some of the little side aspects, but these are important because even if we test with this core implementation, it might seem like it's not 100% working without implementing these aspects as well. And this is the Wix eCom front-end APIs. And here we have a few things that are important to us. So one of them is open sidecart, which is the thing that broke there on the bottom when I removed the cart API. So that indicates that we need to change this. This is a rather simple fix. And the other thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to refresh the cart after we add to the cart using the API. So let's go ahead and implement that. So let's start off with the import. So Wix eCom front end. We're going to pop back over here to the editor, and we're just going to place this right over here up on top, Wix eCom front end. So first let's deal with this error that we have over here. So here, instead of show mini cart, what we're going to do is we're going to say Wix eCom front end dot open sidecar. Okay, so change of terminology there. This also has to do with an update that Wix did recently, actually, where they released a new sidecar instead of mini cart. So it's like really a different thing, which has different properties and things that you can edit and stuff like that. So that's that. And I'm just going to make sure that it's not a promise. Let's see. Open sidecar void. No, I don't see any indication that it's a promise. So we're good. So let's go now to refresh cart. And for refresh cart as well, let's see over here. Wix ecom front and refresh cart. Okay, so I don't see here as well that it's a promise. So let's just head back over here into the editor. And right over here, so after we've added to current cart, okay, right over here, we're just going to say Wix ecom frontend dot refresh cart. Pretty simple, okay? Pretty simple, but pretty important, because otherwise there will be no indication in like the cart icon and stuff like that we've actually added an item to cart, even if it was added successfully. Great, I think we're ready to do some testing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to catch the update to the current cart in a variable. So I'll add here const updated cart equals to await, etc. And here I'm going to add a console log. So console.log updated cart, and here we're going to have the updated cart. Let's add some logs as well to log all of our different options and what's going on over here. So let's go ahead and we'll log over here console.log, and we'll have here item options. And first I'll log if it's managed variants. So this product.managed variants, managed variants, not managed. And then here we'll do our item options. Okay, because this is just a place where I think that things might go wrong, so it would be useful to have a log there. And finally, I'll log over here just our general options. So we'll say console.log API options, and here we'll have the options. Okay, so that should be enough logs to get us going. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to publish a test site, and I'll meet you there to do some testing. Let's start off with this product, which isn't very complex, so there are no options here or anything like that. So what I'll do is I'll just change the quantity here to 3, just to test out that aspect, and I will click Add to Basket. Okay, so we could see here it was added to cart successfully, quantity of 3, and we got all of our logs over here. In terms of the item variants, so here it wasn't really relevant because we didn't have any different choices. We got the line items here inside of the API. So this is kind of what it looks like in terms of the data. And then here we got back our updated cart. So that one went successfully. Now let's try and stretch the limits a little bit by checking out some products that do have variants. So let me just go over here and try and find a product that I remember has variants. Let's see. What here has variants? Maybe this shirt over here has variants? Okay, great. So this one has a few different options here. So what I'll do is I will let's say select color, and I will size, and I'll select type, and let's just do quantity, let's say 2, and I'll go ahead and I will add this to basket, and that was added to cart successfully as well. So it got all of the details here that I put in. Okay, and if we go over here to look at the side, so we can see here that in terms of item options, so false, that means it's not managed variants. And in terms of that, so we have here, so we didn't get a variant ID, but we did get here options, and that passed in correctly. So I think the last thing that we need to do here to test is to make sure that we have a product which has managed variants and to make sure that we're getting that variant ID. And once that goes smoothly, I think we can check this off as a success. Back here in the site dashboard, what I've done is I've gone ahead and I'm going to this watch product over here. And what I'll do is I'll just switch on the manage pricing and inventory like I explained earlier. And then over here, I just kind of got to set this up. So let's just do like price difference 1, price difference 1. It doesn't really matter to me so much. And then I'm just going to go ahead and hit save here on the product. And we shouldn't even need to publish our site again. We can just go back here to the test site and look for that watch product. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to select this watch product. And what I will do is I will just go ahead and I'll refresh this page to make sure that we're loading the most updated version of the site. But changes to the catalog generally should not need us to update, to publish the site again. So I'm going to go ahead over here, choose a color, and quantity 1 is fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and add to basket. And we added to cart successfully, so that's good. I just want to triple check and make sure here that we're actually using the variant ID. So let me go over here to the item options. And you can see here that we're getting the variant ID. Okay, so I know that this is actually a managed variants product, and we're successfully getting the variant ID, and that is all working smoothly. So that really sums up what we did today. So let me just do a quick run through the code just to highlight what we did, and we can wrap up. Let's just do a quick code review before we sign off. So here, first of all, what we did is we are no longer using the cart import from Wix stores. Instead, we have 3 new imports over here. The core import is this current cart from Wix eCom backend. And then we have the Wix eCom front end, which is for those little updates like refreshing the cart and opening the side cart. And we have this import over here from Wix stores front end, which we use to get the variant. Most of the changes that we made are in the add to cart function right over here. And specifically what we did is we replaced this cart add products and array of products API with this currentCart.addToCurrentCart API. And the products need to be set up in a slightly different way using line items. We talked a little bit about what the catalog reference is, app ID, catalog item ID, and we mostly focused on getting those item options right. With this little code snippet that we mostly stole from Wix, where we have the item options, and then what we do is we check if it's managed variants or not, and then based on that we need to either get the variant ID or we put in the options like we did before. This is the function that we built to get the variant ID. Okay, it used products get variants, and we pass in the variant choices. Except for that, we just added a few little changes that are necessary for the Wix eCom frontend API. So one is that we switched from cart show mini cart to Wix eCom frontend open side cart. And the last one is that we added this refresh cart over here. We didn't have anything previously that this is replacing per se, but this is just an addition that's necessary for the UI to update when we're using Wix eCom. So that's pretty much what we did today. I encourage you, after testing and making sure everything's working, to go ahead and get rid of all the commented out code. There's no reason to leave old code just lying around. I'm keeping this because I want it there for learning purposes, because I need to update this in our product page templates that we sell on the wixwiz.com. And I will be leaving remnants of the old code just so that people can see what changes were made if they're using the new template versus the old template. But if this was, a client site or my own site, or we would get rid of the old code. Don't leave the old code just sitting around. It'll confuse you, and it's just not good. So that's with that, we're going to wrap up for today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you still have any questions or suggestions or anything like that, you can go ahead and leave them in the comments below. This video is mostly inspired by your questions and suggestions, people that have mentioned to me that this has changed and it's a bit confusing in the old tutorial. So I take those stuff to heart, and if I hear enough people asking for it, then I try to make it. So please, writing in the comments makes a difference. And of course, if you want to see more videos like this every week, please don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. This tutorial may be over, but that doesn't mean that your journey has to end here. YouTube will have some recommendations up above in a moment for more videos, but don't get too distracted because my eyes are over here, and on the WixWiz website we have a lot more resources for you to continue learning or get support for your business or project. We've got a blog, beginner courses, and a community forum where you can vent about Velo or post some tough questions like, why does my header have a mind of its own? On the website, you can also find my personal calendar to schedule a one-on-one and details about getting ongoing assistance from our team of Wix experts. I'll catch you later, and don't forget that every big feature was once a small bug.